This was interesting to me. I like seeing neat places.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. If y'all would stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Miller, would you give our invocation?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity you have given us. We thank you, Lord, for this country that we live in, this nation. We ask you, Heavenly Father, you continue, Lord, to bless our soldiers where they might be. And Lord, let everything that we do on tonight, first of all, be pleasing in thy sight. We just thank you right now for this opportunity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Just a note, I had a couple of people say that they have not been able to hear some of the aldermen during the meetings on YouTube. So if y'all are speaking, you might just lean into your mic a little bit so everybody can hear you. Can I have a motion to approve this amended agenda? And let me tell y'all, I added 18 and 19. And my assistant was out sick last week. And Joe Lauderdale, now that I remember back, he had me type these onto the agenda, but obviously I didn't save them, so that's how they didn't get there. So obviously I don't function well without my assistant. But if y'all could approve the agenda with items 18 and 19 added to it.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. I need a motion to approve the docket of claim numbers listed on your agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 6 is to approve the minutes from the regular mayor and board of aldermen meeting on September 7th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. Can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no, and that motion passes. Next is the first planning item agenda. If you'd like to present that, BJ.
First item is a request for final plat approval concerning the fourth revision of Lot 8 of Juanita Acres subdivision. That's located on the east side of Hall Road, south of Pleasant Hill, more specifically known as 1246 Hall Road. Ben Smith is representing on behalf of Matthew Baker, who is the owner of the property. Some of you may recall that back in 2019, the mayor and board of aldermen voted to vacate the strip of land. There's basically what I call a paper street along the south end of Lot 8. It's between Lot 8 and Lot 7. And the board, as I said, back in 2019, voted to vacate that road and let the property revert to the adjoining property owners. Basically, this plat revision is strictly for the purpose of bringing the plat into conformance with the board's previous order. There are no changes to the lot as far as the size, shape, anything of that nature. There are no changes to the easements or other right-of-ways. There are no improvements involved, as far as roads or water and sewer or anything like that. It's strictly to eliminate the right-of-way from the plat that the board has already vacated. As a result, since there are no changes as far as improvements go, you'll see under the proposed motion that there's none of our typically standard conditions. The only conditions have to do with certain revisions to the plat that need to be made. First, the title of the plat needs to be revised to read first revision to Lot 8 of the fourth revision of Juanita Acres subdivision. As you can see, earlier in the staff report, gave you a brief history of Juanita Acres and changes that have been made, and what my research found was that there haven't actually been 4 revisions of Lot 8. There have been 4 revisions to the plat as a whole. This is the first revision to Lot 8, okay? So, one of our responsibilities, of course, is to try and keep the land record straight, and so that correction needs to be made to the title. Item B, revise the utility easements along the front, rear, and south side property lines to reflect the new south property line. The drawing, basically, because it still shows the old right-of-way on there, it didn't show the easements being extended to where the new south property line will be, so that needs to be corrected. And then finally, we need to reflect the section corner tie-in. So that's my report on this item, unless anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions on this item? Any questions from the public or comments? Not, can I have a motion?
You need to read the motion as it exists in the report.
Yes, sir, please.
Motion to grant final plat approval to the first revision to Lot 8 of the fourth revision of Juanita Acres subdivision, 3.23 acres located on the east side of Hall Road, South Pleasant Hill Road, and is more specifically known as 1246 Hall Road in Section 30, Township 2 South, Range 7 West, based on upon a finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the city's code and ordinances, subject to the following conditions listed 1A, B, and C.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion carries. Going to move on to the next item, BJ.
Yes, sir. This next item is a final subdivision plat approval for Phase 6 of Montclair subdivision, which is located south of West Oak Grove Road on Scott Road. And it's really kind of torturous the way you have to get down there to find it. It's basically an extension of Clare Circle South. Greg Smith is here in case anyone has any specific questions on behalf of Butch Davis of Montclair LLC. Essentially, this is just a continuation of Montclair subdivision, and I would note that it is not the final phase of the subdivision. There are still additional undeveloped property beyond this phase that will be developed at some later date. The lots in question range in size from 14,704 square feet up to 58,465 square feet, with the large majority of the lots being in the range of 15,000 to 21,000 square foot lots. So it's nice, good, lot size on those. Each lot will have the required setbacks listed in your staff report. And this is kind of strange because one of the things this is being a PUD, in the project text, it had different setbacks for different size lots. And essentially what we're dealing with here is lots that were 30,000 square feet, I believe, or larger, had setbacks of 40-foot front yard, 15-foot side, and 35-foot rear, while lots up to that point, from like 10,000 up to that point, had 30-foot front yard setbacks with 10-foot side and 30-foot rear. In this particular plat, we have a very few number of lots, lot 243 through 247, that fall into that larger lot category. So we'll have those two different setback situations. Similarly, the restricted covenants for Montclair and the project text require that lots 30,000 square feet in size or larger have homes with at least 2,200 square feet of heated floor area. Lots 20,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet can have 2,000 square foot minimum heated floor area, and lots 10,000 to 20,000 square feet in size could have minimum heated floor areas of 1,800 square feet. In this particular case, you know, this is kind of similar. I think we had the same situation over in Jefferson Estates. But essentially, up to this point in time, the developer has, you know, they recorded covenants with Phase 1, and then with each successive phase, they've done what's called a declaration of joinder, which basically just says, you know, Phase 2 is going to go with the same covenants as Phase 1. You know, Phase 3, same as Phase 1, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And they will be doing the same with this Phase 6. And, of course, that way, all of the phases will share the same covenants and same requirements. Basically, as proposed, the submitted final plat meets the City of Hernando's subdivision regulations, and the lots meet the requirements of the approved Montclair project text and preliminary development plan. Basically, a drive-through development reflects that the public improvements appear to be in place in Phase 6 with the exception of the asphalt on the streets. So that's still in play. Phase 6 does not complete the development, as I mentioned. And the Planning Commission reviewed this request for final plat approval at their meeting on September 14th, 2021, and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the submitted plat to the Board of Aldermen, finding that the submitted final plat for Montclair subdivision Phase 6, consisting of 36 single-family residential lots and one common open space lot, located at the eastern terminus of Clare Circle South and situated in Section 23, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, generally conform to the approved preliminary plan for the planned unit development and generally meets the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances, subject to the conditions contained in the proposed motion. And that's basically to approve the final plat. As you can see, item 1 deals with technical corrections to the plat. I won't go through those since you've had the opportunity to review them. And then from that point on, it's our standard subdivision conditions. One thing I would like to point out is that a review of the previous phases, and this is no surprise, I guess, in some respects, it appears that the common open space areas that have been dedicated up to this point have not been transferred to the homeowners association, even though there is a homeowners association. It's in good standing with the Secretary of State's office. So, it's there and they can transfer it, they just haven't done it. And so one of the conditions requires that that be addressed before we issue any building permits in Phase 6.
I know in the original PUD, there were some pretty nice amenities in the common open space. Have those been changed over the years or done away with?
Not that I can see.
So when will they be constructed as part of the PUD?
Well, they'll have to be constructed before it's finished. I mean, that's...
So how do we hold the developer to that? We let them build all the houses first, and then they walk away. What do we do?
Well, obviously, if that's something that you consider to be important, I mean, we could literally include it as a condition at this point in time. Or, you can wait until, like I said, this is not the final phase of the development, and you could wait until the next phase to do that. You just want to do it, before that final phase is built out, kind of like in this particular situation. I'm suggesting that we require that they transfer the homeowners, to the homeowners association, that they transfer those common open space areas that should have been transferred up to now, that they do that before we issue any building permits in Phase 6, okay? You could include a condition that, that they complete any required amenities, at the same time, prior to issuance of building permits.
It would probably, I'm just thinking for in the future, I don't want to hit anybody with it today. It was just came to my mind while we were talking about this, but maybe before the next phase comes, if you could do a little research on what those
Sure.
amenities were in the PUD, and
Right.
we can kind of make that part of the next phase, might be my suggestion before
Okay,
they complete and get too far into it.
certainly, we can do that.
I noticed that as well, just like there's pedestrian walkways and some of the, I mean, if those are all completed, that's fantastic and great. But that's same concerns there, and if they are given over to the homeowners association at that point, would the developer then need the homeowners association approval or permission to go onto that property and do any sort of project? So it gets a little sticky, I think, potentially.
Yeah, I mean,
Hopefully they wouldn't object to them improving their common areas.
yes, you would
Right,
think so. You know, unless there's something that they, you know, obviously, once they get an improvement, it becomes their responsibility to maintain it.
Right.
And, you know, I have seen that been an issue sometimes in the past. At this point in time, I think there's probably an interest on the part of the developer to complete these because, you know, at this point in time, he still controls the homeowners association. Obviously, when the development is complete, he won't, you know. And that's one of the reasons why I want to be sure that the common open spaces get transferred. Because, you know, if it's not transferred, and the guy walks away from the development, you know, we can wind up with a situation where common open space can be sold for taxes because it doesn't belong to the homeowners association and the developer isn't paying taxes on it anymore. So it's definitely something that, you know, we want to be sure gets done if it's our intent that these common open space areas, you know, be part of the development and maintained.
How many more phases are left to go?
Well, you know, in terms of the preliminary development plan, you know, it's kind of vague as to the number of sections because in the original preliminary development plan, this phase is actually in an area that was identified as future development. They had phases up to this point, and then it was like future development. So there's certainly enough property left for a phase probably larger than this one, which is 36 lots. Just looking at the layout, the preliminary layout, there's definitely more than 36 lots remaining. So I think at least one more phase, and perhaps two, depending on how they want to divide it up.
Any other questions or concerns? Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this project? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant final plat approval for Montclair subdivision Phase 6 consisting of 36 residential family lots and one common open space lot located at the eastern terminus of Clare Circle South, situated in Section 23, Township 3 South, Range and West, based upon the finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the approved preliminary plan for the planned unit development and generally meets the requirements of the city's codes ordinance subject to the following conditions. Then motion includes to revise the final plat to address the following items as shown in items A through F in the staff report.
Second.
Just a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next, Mrs. Chatham, would you like to come up and speak to us?
I'm here representing the Celebration of Art Committee, and I want to pass y'all some photos out. Well, I'll do that in a minute. But anyway, we've got a little money that we want to spend, and we really want to spend it to beautify the square around the main downtown part of Hernando. And we've visited different places, and I know you all have too, and we came up with these beautiful baskets, flower baskets that could hang on the lampposts that we have around the square. There's 16 of them, and we'd like to put at least one basket on each post, maybe even two. And we talked to the people in Fairhope, Alabama. I know many of you have been there, and they have beautiful flowers. And they have 100 baskets, and in each basket they put 40 plugs. And their baskets are made out of galvanized steel, and they're wrapped with moss, and then the plants are put in. then we went to Collierville and talked to them. They have 30 baskets around their square, and they've had a lot of success with theirs, but and it's a gift, but the thing is, it comes with a hitch. We want to give the gift, but we can't maintain it. And it would have to be replaced every spring. The initial cost of the baskets would be, with the plants, would be about $250, and that's a very rough estimate. These towns I've talked to have their own greenhouses, so they don't really purchase them from someone else, so they have an advantage there. But they would have to be watered every day, and some of us have talked about different ways to do drip systems and irrigation systems to these plants. But after talking to the people in these two towns, I think the best thing to do would be water them every morning. And I know that's labor intense, but it really wouldn't take as long as you would think. And the tank that you could put on the back of a truck, we could purchase that, but we don't have the labor. So it would be a gift with strings attached. But I want y'all to see these. These are the ones in Fairhope, Alabama, and there are two on each. You just take them. And then these two are in Collierville. Pass those around. And then this morning, I was riding around the square, not trying to shame anybody into anything, but I thought our courthouse is absolutely gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And if you just stop and look, it's just so pretty. The flowers are beautiful. So I took 3 pictures of the courthouse, thinking how nice it would be if the same flowers were on the other side of the square. And there's 16 posts, like I said, so we could do 16 big baskets, or, if you wanted to, we could do 30. But the thing is, it would just be a gift, and we can't maintain them. And the landscaper that I talked to, this is a very rough estimate, but they said it would probably be $65 to $75 to replenish them every spring. So every spring, the dirt would have to be taken out, they'd have to be replanted. So it's not a one-time deal. I mean, it's a pretty good initial cost, but then after we give it to you, it's kind of your baby. So I hope you'll see fit to do it. It'll really look pretty.
I'm going to call on Joe Frank for a minute. Have you got any, I know you had a plan of how we could irrigate and get irrigation to those posts. Do you have an estimated cost on what that would cost us, so we could kind of figure out our labor of manually watering them versus irrigating? And
still working on that cost with some people that know how to do the irrigation.
Okay.
One of the people, the person that does the cutting around the square, he's very familiar with how to do that. So
The Affinity Landscape? Okay.
I know that Collierville waters theirs. And see, hanging in a basket, it's going to have to be watered every day in the summertime. It's not like something in a pot or in the ground. And they water theirs every morning, and every 2 weeks they use Miracle Grow. So, I mean, it takes some work. You have to tend to it. And I know that Fairhope also waters theirs every morning. And I also know, I'm not comparing Hernando to Chicago, but Chicago, if you've ever been, the flowers are just magnificent. All that concrete, and it's just flowers, flowers, flowers everywhere. And they go around every morning at 4 o'clock and water theirs. So, I mean, I know it can be done.
We just have to figure out how.
It just takes money, I guess.
At the conference some of us attended last week, someone told us about some of these baskets that have reservoirs in them, and so you fill them up maybe like once a week, and they kind of self-water.
Yeah.
I don't know the vendor, I didn't get that information, but that might be another option. That would be
That's
less
wonderful,
labor.
Natalie. I've never heard of that.
I hadn't either, so.
What town was that?
I know the girl that spoke lives in Greenwood, and she's a landscape architect, and so I can contact her and find out more.
Well, the initial cost of that might be a little more, but the maintenance would be a lot less, so that would help.
Might could work.
Yeah, okay.
So I know you and I had spoken on the phone. You had told me that this was an idea, and I think it would look beautiful. How soon would you need this board to make a decision for you so that you would be able to get them ordered and?
Well, that's the thing, the landscaper would have to order them, and now, who knows, it takes time for things to
Sure.
come in. I don't know, but we had some other little projects we were gonna talk about later, but we're gonna tackle this one first, because if they do irrigate, that's gonna take some time, and we really would like to do it at the end of frost, which is what, April? I don't
Okay.
know.
But it would be good if you could pre-order them so that they're sitting there ready to go.
Oh, well, the landscaper will have to get them in early, and he'll put them in his greenhouse with
Okay.
little plugs. And then, by the time they're hanging, they'll be pretty.
Okay.
They won't be as pretty as they will be in August and September, but they won't be little scraggly looking things.
Okay.
So the sooner the better.
Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Chatham? Y'all have done many good things around the square over the years, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I will kind of work with the board, and we'll get back to you as quick as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any more discussion on that before we move on? Okay, I'll get to work on getting some proposals in front of y'all with costs for upkeep and things of that nature, so you can make a good decision. Next is number 11, to authorize the crew of Hernando to use the Milton Kirkendall Sport Park and the track and the infield on October 30th from 9 to noon, and close the streets around that whole block. I first said the perimeter of the park, but it's really, if you look at your map, around that whole big block, from 10 to 11 for the Crew Boo 1 Mile Fun Run. Derek, you want to come up and state your case to the board and tell us what you're doing? And
Good evening, I'm Derek Big Lane, 1640 Cedar Grove Drive. This is a kind of inaugural thing we're looking to do. We have not able to have our annual fundraiser this this past winter due to COVID, and so we're trying to look at a way to do small things to be able to help with the donation that we usually make to the different philanthropies around town. We had a golf tournament earlier this year that we're able to fund teacher grants, or that will fund teacher grants in October. And so we wanted to see something that we could help fund the library. Their year starts with y'all's year, of course, October 1st. And we're looking to maybe start their year off with a donation of some sort. And so the guys came up with an idea of a Crew Boo Fun Run, which would be basically, it's approximately 1 mile run. We would meet at 9 a.m. on that Saturday. They would have like moon balances, face painting, some other small children's activities. We'd have like a little photo op place, and then be able to, about 10 o'clock, we would leave the park, do that one block walk around. I mean, they could run it, they could walk it, you can pull a wagon, you can do a bike, whatever you do, very similar to the July 4th parade. And then come back, anything that could be, if it didn't quite make a mile on the streets, we would finish anything else on the track inside the park. So the streets, we would not need the streets for more than an hour. I would hope that it wouldn't take anybody, even if they were crawling, an hour to make the mile. And so we'll have that, so the streets can be released. We'll have the park till 12. Everything wraps up. We're going to have, the children are each going to get a medal to be able, that we've already pre-ordered for finishing the race. And then, again, they're about $30 to enter the race or the fun run. And then all the proceeds, as I said, would be going to the First Regional Library in Hernando. So that's kind of what we're looking, asking. Don't know if there's any conflicts that day, but wanted to ask if we could just reserve it for that 3-hour time period. And then I guess the streets around it for the 1 hour time period from 10 to 11.
anybody have any concerns or questions?
No concern, but I do know the previous board, I know this board had not went into that yet, and I know Derek familiar with this. A mile walk is similar, same thing as doing a race, but it's just a walk.
Right.
And it has been determined and decided that no more additional race / walk will be added unless they use the existing route. So I hope you keep that in consideration as you, think about things like this. And I know Derek can understand what I'm talking about.
I do. I think that, and for this, go ahead. I think that we did take into consideration, we wanted to make sure we kept off the square, we kept off Commerce Street, we kept off 51. And so it's the Vaden Road, it's to, south from Mount Pleasant to Vaden Road, back up to school, and then back over to east-south. And so, East Street, excuse me. And then that's kind of, we try to keep it contained in that little area right there because of basically what you're saying. We didn't want the policemen to have to be spread out. We definitely didn't want to tie up any kind of traffic. And we just thought, on a Saturday morning, just around that area right there, there wouldn't hopefully be too much disturbance with the traffic or anything like that. But I do appreciate what you're saying because we did talk about that.
And then, who's gonna be responsible for, notification of residents? Because that is a concern, because that's where the complaints come from. They come from the residents of those areas that's gonna be impacted the most. And how would you consider about who will be responsible for notifying the residents about that event?
I think in the past, we've asked that whoever holds the event literally puts a note or knocks on the door of the people on the perimeter, on the route. We've had that done before.
Yeah, and we'd be happy, we've got enough guys that hopefully will do that. If for some reason we cannot get that done.
Yeah, especially on a new,
right.
you're doing a new venue versus
Right.
something that hadn't been done before, so it's.
You don't have to knock on my door, I'm good.
Okay. Well, and again, of course, a lot of it's the school system too, which will be closed that day. The first half of that street coming back would be, but the apartment's right behind the
We've
park
got a problem about 4 or 5 houses
Right.
on South Street.
on South Street. Yep. And I'll be happy to. Again, we have enough guys to hopefully be able, if for some reason we didn't have the volunteers to be able to do that, we would not host the event, but I would hope that we would have enough guys to be able to do that, and you can make it part of your motion that we would have that done.
Any other questions? Anybody from the public have any comments on this? If not, can we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve and would have them to, notify the residents prior to that date.
Second.
Second by Alderman Robinson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And the motion passes. Thank you, Derek. Next is to approve the lowest and best quote from BWI Companies, Inc. for perennial ryegrass seed blend for $8,400 for 75 50-pound bags for the soccer fields. Have a motion on that one?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is the approval of Collins Lemonade to provide concessions for the fall 2021 and spring 2022 soccer seasons and to sign the agreement. Any questions or concerns on that one, or a motion?
It's the same, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just gotta have Steve review this.
Be happy to.
I said, have you?
I have not reviewed it, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's the same one we did last year, so
Okay, I
we
didn't know
didn't
what
put it in
that-
front of the
okay.
attorney because it was the same one we
Same,
did last
okay,
year, so.
oh, no problem, as long as the same
Yeah,
stipulation.
just
Okay.
change the dates on it.
It's the same group? Or same
This is the
business?
same group, isn't it, Dwayne?
No problem.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is item 14, to approve the soccer field rental rate. We have some others who are wishing to rent the soccer fields for practice and games. So we thought we might just approve a rental rate, so when they call in, the Parks Department, using their own discretion for scheduling, could just rent it.
So are these competitive teams, or are they?
I think the ones asking are other competitive teams.
Okay.
Is that's, okay.
If we have recreational teams that want additional practice, would they be charged this rate, or are they?
Dwayne, will you help me with that question? I hadn't thought of that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
This is a very small detail, but could we update the seal to the current seal and not the old one?
We certainly can. Can we have a motion on that item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. And next is item 15, authorized to hire Ethan Minnie for grounds maintenance in the Parks Department, $10 per hour, pending pre-employment screening.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Next is authorize to hire Liam Hall as a certified police officer at the rate of $23.50 per hour effective October 1, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. Item 17, authorize to hire Shane Griffin as a certified police officer at the rate of $25 per hour. It's a current open position.
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion passes. Next, Joe, do you want to talk about these next two items for us? The first one is the approval of the lowest and best bid for New Age Logistics Road Construction Project to Phillips Contracting Company, Inc., with a bid of $643,516.
Okay. We advertised and received bids on the road there going to New Age Logistics off of 51. And Phillips Contracting was a low bid, as the mayor has read out there. We have a certain point we're supposed to start, and then the county and MDOT have a certain point, a certain amount of work they've got to do, so this is separate from theirs, and I think they're going to do their work next year. They have to have all theirs completed by this time next year, so thought I'd go ahead and get started on what we got to do. And it is a concrete road like you requested. It has curb on it, and then they'll come back and put sidewalk on the road, so we get a full road there. Concrete curb, concrete street, sidewalks that they will eventually put in.
Were there multiple bids submitted? I didn't.
2 bids.
Okay.
The other bid was about $670,000.
Okay.
And you did review both of them. This is the best bid.
I did.
Okay.
Tried to get the people that did the original concrete work for New Age, but they weren't willing to come back from Chicago and different places to do it, so we had 2 local people who gave us the bids. This Phillips company, by the way, did the square and did the linear park.
And this is less than you had anticipated it was going to be in our original estimates, because we thought we were going to have to build the road bed. Is that correct?
I think we put in about $900,000 for the road.
Okay.
Let me go back and look at all the inputs into that bond, into that money, but I think that's where we were.
Okay. So this will be well within the budget that was created for it. Any questions?
So where exactly does this funding come from? Is it?
This is the
That's kind of
loan
a-
through North Delta. That's for AWG.
Okay.
So as the invoices are turned in, they pay them, and then we'll start paying on the loan when they're done.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, can we have a motion to accept the lowest and best bid?
I'll make a motion to approve, to award the lowest, best bid for the New Age Logistics Road Construction Project to Phillips Contracting Company Incorporated with a bid of $643,516.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion passes. Next, Joe wants to talk to us about the sewage easements for the AWG sewer project.
Okay. We're working on 3 easements out there that we need. We've been working on them for a while. I finally got appraisals that we were looking for. And I need you to approve the appraisal for the CSC properties. And that's a piece of property at the end of Capic Drive. And that appraised value was $1,800. I have talked to the owner there, and I think he's willing to accept that. So, I guess we need your approval to make that offer to him.
Is that the only one, or you got?
No, we got
those two?
another one.
Okay.
Other one may be a little more complicated. It's on the east side of the interstate, a small piece. And because of the way it's landlocked, I guess, and because of all that water you see out there, it's a piece of property I'm not sure what you can do with, but the appraised value only came in at $150. So, guess I need approval to make that offer for the appraised value. It's the owner of the property is Miracle Homes Incorporated.
It's that row of buildings on the north side of Capic. It's in the rear of those. Is that right?
Yes, that's CSC. Yeah, it's where that building is back there. I guess it's an auction, type of internet auction type. Little piece of land.
It's Discount Depot.
Right.
Discount
Discount
Depot.
Depot,
There you
yeah.
go. And that's the two I've got.
And we're almost to the point of getting that project underway. The pipe has been laid in a pile out there on Mackinville Road, so they're just about ready to start construction.
Just wondering what that pipe is for.
If there are no more questions, can we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. That motion passes. The cemetery dirt work that y'all seen going on, it's not finished. Joe says there's more to do, and it's probably $28,000 or so. And obviously, that's going to come out of the next year's budget. So this was kind of a surprise. I know we had budgeted $30,000 in that next budget for capital improvements. And we had said we were going to try to do some walkway replacement. This dirt project probably needs to be finished, and we'll probably eat up most of that money. So we'll just kind of have to know we're probably not going to do the walkways as much. But we kind of need to finish the dirt project.
That comes out of the cemetery fund.
Comes out of the cemetery fund, yes, sir. So you want to give us a little more detail on what you're going to finish doing out there to?
Okay.
Wrap up.
Starting, I guess, we kind of used up all the money that we had appropriated for the dirt work that I guess that you've seen out there. And I need to do some more to finish it up, to kind of tie together the field work we did with the original part of the cemetery there. To kind of finish the job. So I've got a quote from the same person who brought in all that dirt that you see out there, who's actually getting the dirt from over on Vaden, as that person over there develops that piece of property where he wants to expand his building on Vaden. So he's given us a pretty good price to move dirt at $7 a yard to the site. That's M5 Construction Company. That was the lowest price I got, and the other price was $8.33. So I'd like to, if you approve it, to use the M5 Construction Company to bring the dirt in. And we'll probably have to hire a dozer or something to move some dirt around, but kind of stay within your budget that we've talked about.
And this should finish out that cemetery. Once that dirt settles for a year, year and a half, then you can plot all those, and we're going to be pretty much done with big capital improvements out there.
I think so.
Okay.
We got a good bit of land we can expand as far as lots that before I even get to that field area.
Ones where the ground's already ready, you just need to survey them.
Right.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, what about, Oak Grove, East Oak Grove Road? that we had the problem with before? That was tore up?
The spot that we had, well, we've gone in there and fixed it, so let me take a look at that and see what needs to be done on that.
I don't, you know,
You talking about the trucks tearing the road up?
yeah,
There's that one big spot right there.
yeah, you know, I call it, you know, when you're coming into the
Yeah.
old part of the Old Grove Road there.
Do we need to
Yeah.
lay a metal plate over it while they're doing the transporting? And so it doesn't tear that one spot up again that seems to be the weak spot?
Let me take a look at that and see. 'Cause that's the only way I can get the dirt out, is right through
I
there.
understand that, but that's when we need to make some, whatever preventative that we can do to stop the bleeding and the damage, I think we need to do it.
Okay. We'll take a look at that and make sure.
We'll get Joe and Lee Jeremy to put their heads together on it.
Now, on the last time, Joe, we did that, didn't they voluntarily, move the dirt around over there?
They
We
did.
did not pay that, but this time they want to be paid. Am I correct? I'm just asking now, I mean, last time they put a piece of equipment over there,
Okay, last time their bid was around $9. That included the dozer. This time, it's
They
less
donated
per.
dirt. They gave us the dirt.
We got some dirt. We got more
Right, that's what
dirt
I'm
than
saying.
we
So it-
bargained for. They gave us more dirt.
yeah, so,
This time we have our dozer over there that we could use, and that's why he gave us a lower price per yard.
all right, okay. Okay, thank you.
I still have to move some dirt off of that hill that you see out there with some type of machine. We're hiring somebody by the hour to do that.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion on this one?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is the approval for EMS fee schedule increase. This would be, you got it in front of you, and I think Joanna's here and the assistant chief are here to talk to you about it, to kind of get us up to what insurance is willing to pay for various ambulance fees, and to get us kind of more in line with what other cities are charging.
Hi, how are y'all? I think you've got the fee schedule that we're asking, and what our current fee schedule is, along with the other fee schedules for the 911 agencies in DeSoto County. We all work very closely together on the EMS side, and are all working towards having a unified fee schedule amongst the cities and even DeSoto County, so that when we are just providing mutual aid service to one another, if our ambulance comes, it's not one price versus if somebody else has to come to that same patient, it's a different price. I know right now, the fee schedule that we're asking for, South Haven and Horn Lake are currently asking the same increase. DeSoto County said that they're going to request that in December when they are relooking at their adjustments. And Olive Branch said that they are due for an increase, but that's not right this moment. But insurance pays a percentage of what you bill, and if you don't bill enough, then you're leaving money on the table for every time you bill. So if they'll pay 75% and of $100, and you're only billing $75, then you're leaving a percentage every time, if you're not billing what insurance will pay.
Could I ask you a
Question.
question? Oh, come on, Doc.
Go ahead,
You
Doc.
first.
Based on your comment and based on our current rates.
Yes, sir.
We've been leaving money on the table.
Every time, yes, sir.
Not good.
Alderman Miller.
Yeah, my question is, I break it down into 8 different categories, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
On your proposed fee increase, when you look at the Mississippi average,
Mm-hmm.
your first 4 is below the Mississippi average. And your last 4 is above the Mississippi average. So help me out with that.
These figures that we are basing these proposals off of are the Blue Cross Blue Shield allowables is the figure they went from, because our billing company, and we actually all use the same billing company in DeSoto County. Like I said, we all talk and work really well together. They actually suggested requesting 150 to 200% times what Medicare would allow, and because that was going to be such a substantial increase, we went with the Blue Cross Blue Shield allowables as our basis to try to gauge those numbers that we were shooting for.
So we still went below the Mississippi average and then above in 4 different areas. According to the numbers.
According to the numbers, in some areas, yes, sir. And I can't tell you overall how it would increase our revenues across the board. I know our revenues are substantially going up, or consistently going up, as well as our call volume is increasing. But because of all those different categories that you see, I can't give you a generalized or an estimated guess of how this would impact the overall revenue, because every call is different based on the level of care that's provided and the mileage.
My other question would be this then. What you said, the insurance gonna pay 75%, but the other 25% gotta be paid by that patient.
That's,
Let me finish. Okay, right now, if I'm not mistaken, what is our default rate on the 25% that not being paid? So if it's high already or not being paid, what's gonna happen when it go higher? Because it's still, like you said, 75% and 25%. That person that's being transported got to pay that 25%, and a high percentage right now are not paying the 25%. So that number 9 is finna go up. The 25% get higher, the dollar-wise. So that's my point, you know.
and when I said 75%, that was,
I know you
that
just
was
used
not
the
a
average.
definite that's how much they pay.
Yeah,
That was
but
just an example.
It's just a percentage. I know that I'm not, we just using a round number, but still, if was it 80% or 70%, it's still though that patient that's being transported, amount of money gonna go up to that they were required to pay.
Well, with insurance, you have what insurance will pay, and then you have what the insurance will adjust off or write off. And again, that's based on each individual insurance company and the person's policy and what their deductibles and patient responsibilities are.
So it is foreseeable, you know, it could happen that we end up with more people not paying their portion. But I would
gonna
think
be,
it
I
would
mean,
level out, though, you would think.
It's definitely got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Your billing company does, the billing company?
Yes, ma'am.
They do the collections on those?
No, ma'am. We use AMB for our billing, and we use AMS for our collections,
Okay.
which is the same collections company that I believe the water company and maybe some of, or not the water company, but the water department and the court department.
Any other board members have comments or questions on this proposed fee increase or fee adjustment?
I'm just curious of one thing, Mayor, and I don't know if you've done this or not, but if you ran the stats on our volume of traffic this year, based on the new rates, how much additional revenue would that generate?
That's what I can't answer, because every call is different based on the level of care provided and the miles from where the patient's picked up to the hospital that they're being transported to. So it varies depending on significant variables on each call.
Mileage.
Mileage and the level of care. That's what the ALS and the BLS and the ALS2, those are all different levels of care provided.
Thank you.
On those first 4 items, I just real quickly looked at them. On the 2 mileage items, those items are going up 50%. And the 911 transport, 911 emergency transport are both going up 25%. So that might kind of help us wrap our head around it a little bit. Any other discussion? Anyone in the public want to make a comment? If not, could I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the new fees, Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next is the discussion of upgrading the proposed 8-inch water line on Green Tea Road to a 12-inch. There is a business going in up there. We had talked about it before and said we weren't going to pay to put their water line in. And so they are putting in their 8-inch water line. Joe has talked to them, told them where it needs to be. And I think, personally, I think we would be leaving money on the table if we let them just put an 8-inch line in, knowing we're going to need a 12-inch in the next year or so. So my proposal was for us to help pay some of the difference on that, so we get a 12-inch water line in. I think we'd all feel a little silly a year and a half from now digging a new hole next to their 8-inch line and putting in a 12-inch line. So that was kind of the proposal, was for us to assist in upgrading that while they're putting it in. Joe, do you want to talk a little more about it?
Okay, I kind of worked with them on a plan, as the mayor talked about. So, and they've kind of come up with kind of the same cost that I kind of came up with to do that work, starting over there at old McInville there at Hernando Hills. They'd have to start there and run the line east over to their property where they want to connect on to the main, and that's where that would stop. Eventually, we would come in from the east with a 12-inch line because we kind of got an idea about a new water plant up that way, so that'll fit right in with what we think we're going to do in the future. And then whoever develops the Madison Lake property with the McInville realignment road, they'll have a new line that'll come up and connect into this same line that will kind of help serve that whole area up there, including some lots across the street on the north side of McInville and Green Tea that right there at the corner that will probably be developed pretty soon.
Where's this money going to come from?
It's not budgeted, so it would have to be taken from a contingency line item in Public Works budget and lower our contingency amount. That's the only place that I could see it could come from.
Back in July, you gave us some cost estimates to put in the 8-inch and the 12-inch.
Okay.
And based on your estimate, the difference back then was about $187,000 between the two.
Okay.
The bid that we're looking at for $193,000, is that the same difference that would be reflected in your numbers between the two?
It's, okay.
I mean, we're looking at apples to apples.
Right. Kind of looking at the hybrid part, right there. One is.
Yours looks to be more complete, your estimate, than what we're looking at on FLC.
Okay.
So
So-
are we going to be looking at extra costs down the road that we aren't looking at here?
No.
Oh.
The first estimate I have there was an all 8-inch line,
Correct.
and then your second estimate in there was all 12-inch line.
Right.
So that's the difference, and we now have a combination of 8 and 12.
So the way Joe explained it to me is he looked at their plan, and there were parts of it, he said we didn't need 12-inch in. So we'll be building some 8-inch and some 12-inch instead of all 12-inch.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Even for future expansion in
Yep.
that area?
Because we're going to get a second feed from McInville Road realignment. That's what's going to make the difference.
Do we have, is this the only bid on this that we have, or do we have, was there another one to compare it to?
The numbers that He showed me there. That's the estimate. We have not bid it out. That's the estimate that their contractor has presented to us, apparently, that they think they can get the work done for.
So the next thing is, if we decide that we were going to do a portion of this, and, you know, let's just say we were going to do $86,000 towards this project to upgrade it to 12-inch, how do we do that legally? We can't just hand them $86,000.
Can't be done.
So Joe had an idea or two about how it could possibly be done, if you want to share those with us.
Okay. Material-wise, you know, we can take quotes up to $50,000. If the material cost is over $50,000, we have to bid it. And then we can do the same way we did with North Mississippi Water. We can have an appraised value of their final product that they're supposed to put in and be able to purchase that line from them at a set figure before the construction ever starts.
So the board
There's two ways.
could come up with a figure, $86,000, whatever it is, but right now we're looking at $86,000, and say that we would be willing to purchase that line once they have it in the ground for that amount, as long as it appraises for that value or more.
And not to
Believe you can.
exceed,
Yeah,
like,
not
I'd have to check with
Not to
the,
exceed
have
X
to check
amount
with
of
the
dollars.
attorney about the legal aspects of it, but I think that's been done before.
Attorney will have to check on that too.
Yeah.
We can
Before we can make
for sure.
contract.
Yeah, we'll look at all that and
Yeah.
get it sorted out and get some answers.
Well, what is the board's feeling if there is a legal way to do it? We don't want to do anything that's illegal, but I think we do want to look for an opportunity to pay $86,000 or less for 12-inch line instead of $150,000 a year from now. Or however, I'm just making up that number, but it would be quite a bit more. We'd be digging the whole project.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're saving over $100,000 worth of labor that we're not having to pay for.
Any other comments or thoughts?
Go ahead,
Alderman Miller.
I need to make, I'm gonna say how nice I can say this. We need to be careful that we try to manipulate to save. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Is there a timeline on this decision?
I think it needs to happen pretty quickly because they're trying to open their building the end of November, I believe. So they're going to be putting some kind of line in the ground, whether it's their 8-inch or the 12-inch.
So currently, they're just gonna run an 8-inch line to their building and that's it.
That's right.
And they're already gonna go ahead and do that.
They have the ability to do that.
And they're saying, they're asking us, hey, if you pay $86,000 or $83,000, we'll put a 12-inch line in.
That's exactly it. So the line's going in either way. You know, it's just an opportunity. We can take the opportunity or not take it.
I think it's a good opportunity, but I do wanna make sure it's ethical and legal and the right thing
Absolutely.
to do.
Would y'all want to send our engineer and attorney back to work on it and bring us a recommendation to the next meeting?
Be happy to.
Okay. Everybody good with that? I don't think we need a motion on that. We'll just ask them to do that for us so we can have a little better information to make sure we're doing the right thing. Okay. Anyone else out here want to talk on that topic, have an opinion on it? Okay, if not, we will move on to the discussion of designing a soccer park parking lot to get that ready for bids. I know a few of you have asked me about it, and it was something we've all discussed individually over time. I asked Joe about it, and I don't think they've actually designed a soccer parking lot yet. I think they kind of come up with an estimate for asphalt, but not a true design of a parking lot that would meet our design standards. So if that's something we want him to start working on, Go ahead, Alderman Wicker.
Is Derek still here? I listened to his podcast today. He mentioned, yeah, some type of plans or something. Maybe.
I mean, this is, again, I know what y'all need to do, but this is something that we did 4 or 5 years ago when we were doing the soccer, trying to help get it done and getting the funding for it. And again, this may help you, I may not help you any. What we did was, and I don't know if anybody, I know I sent it to Bruce today, he had asked for it. I'm going to pass this around. They're all the same page stuck together. This was a bid that we had for the asphalt portion of it back in 2018. And then also this is, we had it done in phases. So that's the phase of the subdivision that was done by, I believe, I can't remember the engineer's name. It'll come to me in just a second.
And you know, just so everybody here knows,
sorry.
Derek is a citizen here.
Yeah.
And he has been very active in the past with the Friends of Soccer and helping get the soccer fields up and helping us do various things to improve them over the years, so.
Yeah, and as part of the Hernando Soccer Association, we also paid Dahlhoff Thomas, architect out of Memphis, that did a comprehensive design of the soccer complex, which was used to actually put the current fields in. That also has just, you can kind of get a overall view of what it could look like finished, that y'all might can help when you're also looking at the thing. And that was done by an architect friend of mine that worked there at the time. Does not work there anymore, but it is a design that was done back in 2017, 2018, just to kind of give you a view of what we were looking at the time. And again, as you mentioned, Mayor, it was the asphalt only. It wasn't actually up to design standards. We were trying just to be able to fund something because if you've played out there, if you've been out there, there's a lot of ruts, there's a lot of holes. The city has done some job putting in, filling in some holes, maybe annually, or every other year. But we did actually have an asphalt plan. You see some, again, those were numbers. It was one bid from North Mississippi Driveway back in, I think it was August of 18, if I remember the date right, somewhere on there. Again, done in phases because we were trying to fund this privately to be able to, or fundraise for it privately to be able to do it. And so anyway, that's just kind of, the Hernando Soccer Association does have some funds left with the Community Foundation, I believe $7,000 or $8,000 that, and I'll double check on that, but I'm 99% sure it's in that range. If there's any help needed for that and trying to get something done. Also, want to make aware that, it's a new board. And so the city does have the opportunity, if you want to, the sponsorships are technically up at the soccer fields. The sponsorships were a 4-year sponsorship. Actually, it was a 3-year sponsorship because it took us a year to actually sell the sponsors. But it can only go the length of the board. And because there's a new board, the 7 fields that are out there that are sponsored can be looked to be re-sponsored. As a Hernando Soccer Association, we have preliminary talks on that a few months ago. We have not talked about it since. That is something that the city could do themselves if y'all wanted to. If not, as a Hernando Soccer Association, we could look to do it. Obviously, we can't hand the money that we would put it in our parks and then look to try to, supplement what the city could do through the Community Foundation if we wanted to do it that way. So, anyway.
In the past, didn't we do a contract with the Soccer Association and authorize y'all to sell the sponsorships out there? And then you in turn use the money the best way y'all saw fit?
That's right. We did a lot of we did the original seeding and the grassing and doing that out there. We also bought nets and goals and stuff like that the first time around. There is, and you'll see on the plan, there is a kicking wall that was shown on there. That kicking wall is out there. That was done by the Optimist Club. So there has been some improvements. Over the last year or two, obviously, it's been kind of limited due to COVID. But again, I wanted y'all to have that because, that is y'all's information. It is your park that we were able to do that, 3 or 4 years ago. And wanted to turn that over to you because I know a lot of you are new and not familiar with that. Mayor, you would be because you were we were working on this kind of starting with a bond issue 5 or 6 years ago. But this is what we had done since then and wanted y'all to have that information. Since I saw on there, it was part of the, y'all were looking at doing something with the parking, so.
That'll be helpful, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'll make sure Joe gets a copy. Did y'all want to authorize Joe to start designing it and getting it ready?
I would like to see him move forward with it if something needs to be done.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that's, clearly it's past due. As somebody that drives out there twice a week, I think that Parks Department's doing what it can to try to mitigate you know, the issues out there, but it's just not, it's just not what people's expectation is. But I think additionally, a couple things on this. One, there's some ideas on this master plan I think we need to take in consideration on future budgets. The netting and, you know, fencing to prevent kids from kind of running out from the playing surface into the parking lot. Currently, right now, it's just wide open. So if kids are kicking a ball and they miss the goal, which happens, it just goes straight into the driving area. So you have kids just kind of darting across from time to time. So look at some of those things. I know it's a different issue, but something to consider. I'm assuming this is coming out of the overlay line item of our budget. If we get numbers back that we want to work with, correct?
Yeah, there was no capital improvement money of this sort put into the parks budget, so I would assume that, much like we did the Concord Park parking lots, that this could be taken out of the $1.2 million in overlay funds that were budgeted for the upcoming year.
So additional, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, go on, finish.
Yes, sir, thank you. So additionally, as part of that, I think we need to consider now working to compile a list of streets that need repairing and overlaying as quickly as possible, because the process takes such time that it will likely be the spring before we're truly moving forward on these. As it gets cooler outside, it becomes more difficult to pave and do some of these projects. So that would be something I'd like to additionally either look at the next meeting or then one of the next two meetings to try to get a list compiled and get a process together for that.
Okay. And to answer to that a little bit, you know, we have the Civil Link plan for road maintenance and road paving that's approximately 4 years old, I think. And it wasn't completely followed, as happens. You know, you budget and then money goes other places. And I asked Civil Link what they would charge us to update the plan. It was $28,000, which seems like a lot of money. So what I would like to do is us just take the original plan with our Public Works Director and Joe Lauderdale and kind of just look at it ourselves and update it and say, hey, these have been fixed, these have not been fixed, because they were prioritized to start with, and kind of use it as a guideline to move forward. It's not going to be exactly right, but we can at least look and see which of those have been overlaid and just use it as a starting point and kind of rank them and get something back in front of the board for consideration.
Do we have any projects available to do, or engineered, or as far as road repairs or overlays or anything on the table to do?
Joe, will you answer that question?
Are there currently any projects for roads that need to be repaired that you are ready to go, kind of shovel ready, or we don't have anything ready to
The
go?
biggest project coming up is the bid Friday for motor scooter and Old 51, which is it's going to be a big project, big dollar project when you see it. So.
And that's the only one that you've really done any, that you've gotten bid ready. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But I just know, like, this year, we had, I think, approximately, $700,000 just sitting there that we carried over that could have been used to get some roads done.
Right.
So I don't want to be in that position again.
Absolutely not. Yeah, if y'all are budgeting $1.2 million, we need to try to put all that in asphalt or road repairs
Yeah,
in
that's,
the next budget year.
and I think that's Ben's point, to try to get something to where we can get it going.
Well, additionally, if we have a true list that we're working off of, it can be bid all as one master plan, correct? Wouldn't that be probably wise, rather than kind of piecemealing through
Sure.
2 or 3 at a time?
We usually get a better price when we give them a big list.
Yes, sir.
I still think these subdivisions that are far behind need to take precedence over anything else on any of our overlays projects of that 1.2 million.
That's what I was just gonna say, when I yield to Ben there, that I'm concerned that we're gonna put all these other projects ahead because we overlay, take it out overlay that. I'd like to see that road plan and what you said, Alderman Chad, whether they ready or not, they ready because the roads are damaged. We just need to, fix them, so we need to, our engineer to bring back a list so we can start working on it, because the roads, they ain't doing but getting worse. Some of the roads now are turning into gravel roads, especially in the ward that I'm in. But I can take anybody there on any given day. It don't take an engineer to know that these need to be done.
I think that's where a plan would be very beneficial. We could have a kind of a list and go down that list. We're gonna do these this year, these next year, and that way we kind of, I think that's the only fair way to do it.
I'm agreed, long we stay with the list.
That's right. I have no problem with that.
Roughly a year ago, Joe Frank put together a list of streets by priority. I think there were 10 of them on your list. And our goal a year, maybe 2 years ago, was to start on that list. I don't know if we've done that yet or not, but since we're on the subject, Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and get it on the agenda for our next meeting and ask Joe Frank to update that list and us identify the money that we've got in the budget that we want to spend on our overlays, and go ahead and identify a time frame to go to work on it, if we can have that in our next meeting.
Okay. Would you like to put that in the form of a motion? Is that your motion?
If I need to make that as a motion, yes,
Let's do
sir,
it.
that's a motion.
Let's make sure it gets back here.
I make the motion that we do that and be prepared at our next meeting to discuss it.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? Well, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We will get to work on a list.
Do we need to move forward with the soccer project? Do we need to make a separate motion for that, or is that included in that previous motion?
He's just
Since
getting
that
bids,
was the
right?
line item, would you make a motion to that item?
Just make a motion that we move forward, authorize Joe Frank Lauderdale to review bids for the soccer complex, or
To design it.
design the
Design it.
soccer complex.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Thank you, Alderman Wicker. The final item on the agenda is one I'm sure there won't be much debate about, the noise ordinance discussion.
I thought we were going to table that.
So I would like to say before we start, we had a lot of discussion at the last board meeting, and I guarantee you that everyone up here on the board heard the discussion and heard the people that spoke. And there are some new faces in here I see tonight. What I would ask you is, the things that have already been said, there's really no need to come up here and say them again. The board did hear them. You'll see from the proposed ordinance that's going to be brought up by our attorney that they were listening. If there is something new, I would like for you to limit yourselves to 3 minutes, because there are a lot of people here. So we'll tackle it in that fashion. But to start with, Stephen, would you like to get up and discuss what you've come up with as a starting point or proposed ordinance?
Thank you, Mayor. The board asked me to research this issue since we don't have a noise ordinance in our city. Our city is growing. The board asked me to come up with a proposed ordinance. I've done that, and I want to tell you the basis of what I sent to each of you board members and to the mayor. I have talked to most of the people in this room. I've talked to, I think, everyone on this board. I've talked to Mr. Beck Alexander, the owner of the building that's, kind of in the middle of everything, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Wilson, all those individuals. This is not just about that part of the ordinance. This is a complete proposed ordinance for the city of Hernando in every aspect, and I think you've seen that in what I've given you. Provided you with a legal basis to enact certain parts of the ordinance if you had any questions about that. There were questions of whether or not this board could vote on this item on the agenda tonight in consideration that it's placed on the agenda as a discussion item. I have researched that, and you can vote on this item tonight if you choose to do so. I think all parties are here, and if they weren't, you could still vote on it. As I discussed with this board at the last meeting, I've looked at the ordinance for the city of South Haven. I've looked at the ordinance for the city of Olive Branch. I've looked at the ordinance for the city of Oxford. I've looked at the ordinance for the city of Starkville. And I've even looked at, thanks to Madam Clerk, this ordinance for Franklin, Tennessee with regard to garbage collection. So, and those are all good suggestions. People have different suggestions that they wanted me to look at and try to include in this overall plan and ordinance. So I've included all those items. I want to point out that if this matter was proceeding in front of the Board of Aldermen in the city of South Haven, their ordinance states, music, the playing of any music by a live band or other instruments or devices utilizing sound amplification equipment in any manner so as to unreasonably disturb the peace and quiet of neighboring persons or ordinary sensibilities of the vicinity thereof is not allowed. Okay? I do think that this board knows that with respect to live music, that is happening with some of our residents. Okay? So if it were in South Haven, there would be a shutdown of that operation, that activity. Well, the same would be true for the city of Olive Branch. The playing of music by a live band, I think it's basically the same thing. It's almost the exact same language. The difference is that Olive Branch is kind of cut and dry. South Haven gives a little bit of leeway. I don't think either city would allow what has been occurring in our city with regard to live music. And I wanted to make this very clear, and I've stated this to all the parties involved. I am certainly not here to shut down anyone's ability to put on live entertainment in the city of Hernando. That's not my job. It's for you to make those decisions as to how to govern this activity. I love live music just as much as anyone else, but I have submitted a proposal to this board, and that proposal is based on my review of the ordinances from these different municipalities. Now, if you were in the city of Oxford, they have different zones. Their ordinance is a little bit more complicated. It has your historic urban center, your primary business commercial area, and your primary residential area. I believe that where our live entertainment is coming from and where it is expected to continue to come from, there will be additional probably venues in the future in the same area that will probably want to offer live outdoor entertainment. Okay? That's something we need to plan for. And of course, you can always amend any ordinance that you enact, But I believe that our particular part of our city, and this is not just because I live in this particular part of the city, it's because a lot of people live in this particular part of the city. There are at least 30 homes within 300 yards of Uncle Bubba's. Okay? So I think it's kind of it falls in between, if you were looking at Oxford compared with what we were trying to do here. I believe it would fall in between these two: historic urban center, their square area, and primary residential area. I think ours falls in the middle. So I'm telling you all this is to tell you my justification for the proposal that I made. Okay. So in Oxford, in the residential area, 65 decibels is their max, and 10 o'clock cutoff time. Okay. In their square area, this is interesting, 85 decibels is their max up until 10 o'clock. I'm sorry, up until 11 o'clock, because it stops at 11 o'clock. Okay. So, and so they go at 85 in that area till 11 o'clock, but 65 in the residential. So I believe that Hernando is more residential than that part of Oxford, and that's part of my recommendation to this board. And I'll follow up on that in just a moment. In the city of Starkville, they allow 80 decibel levels until 9 o'clock p.m., and after 9, they do 75 decibel levels. Now, when I first was asked to talk a little bit about this in front of the board. We had only really looked at Olive Branch and South Haven at that time. My impression was that decibel readings would be more difficult. I've since briefly talked with the police department officials. You know, having a decibel reader is not difficult to do. Having a more definite ordinance, instead of leaving it to be subjective, is certainly advisable to this board. You need definite regulations, definite rules for everybody, okay? Especially when there are issues that are coming up, as these issues will continue to come up unless we govern it the way we need to. So having reconsidered that, I am proposing decibels for the city of Hernando with regard to live music. Now, as most members of this board know, I do live in the area, but I have also talked to many of my neighbors, and some of them are here. They'll speak for themselves. There's a balance here that needs to be met. It's not fair to the individuals who have lived here for a long time to have music interfering and intruding into their home at a loud level late at night. There's new construction, and there are new residents in the city of Hernando. It is affecting them more because it's close to the venue. And I don't want to, I'm not picking on Uncle Bubba's, but that's the example that we're using right now. I've told Terry Taylor that nothing I say is intending to shut down live music in the city of Hernando or adversely affect anyone's business. This board could do that. This board could say, we don't want any live music outside. Very much similar to Olive Branch and South Haven. I don't believe this board wants to do that, but you'll need to vote on that as you deem appropriate. I do know that, you know, having talked to Mr. McAlexander and to Mr. Taylor, there may be a feeling that at times the music has been too loud, okay? And so the way to handle that is to set a decibel level. Now, you know, it's for this board to vote on. I have suggested, based on my evaluation of the other ordinances, going from a zero tolerance, which you would have in 2 of our cities in our county, to 2 college towns, and the way that they do it. If you were really comparing Oxford, then if you considered it to be primarily residential, you would say 65. If you considered it to be primarily commercial, a square historic area, they go to 85 at a cutoff at 11. So I believe that it is characterized, from my point of view, and this is just my observation of the area, that there's a lot of residences around. So I have suggested cutoff times during the weekdays at 9 o'clock. Mr. Taylor has said that he would believe that would be workable for him. He thinks that they stop at 9 o'clock anyway on those days. Friday and Saturday seems to be probably what you're going to struggle with in your deliberations. I've suggested 10 o'clock and a 65 decibel level. And so I'm available for any questions as you have them. Otherwise, those are my recommendations, and that's all they are, is recommendations.
Everyone here on the board got a copy of it from Stephen today, is that correct?
Yes. I want to point out that there were a few little corrections that need to be made in the draft that I sent to you. I think I sent you all follow-up emails in that regard. Of course, we'll make those, and we'll make changes if there are changes that are voted on, and I can have this ready for you tonight if necessary, or as soon as possible.
After reading through the proposed ordinance, do any of you on the board have any questions or comments or modifications or anything you want to discuss about it?
I want to go to the exemption then.
Do you want me to stay up here? You have questions for me?
I'm just going to the exemption.
Okay.
Anybody can
I'm
answer.
gonna have a seat. If you need me, I'll come back up.
I'm concerned about on the exemption that, our fireworks shows and things like that was not put in on the exemption. I don't think they should be a permitted, I think it should be on an exemption.
Alderman Miller, I wasn't sure if those are permitted events, if it's a
No,
permit.
I'm making my statement, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it should be a permitted event
Okay.
because that's something that we do annual, and I think it should be on the exception. We do the high school, we do Wesley Meadows, we do our fire shows, so I don't think we should have a permit for that. We do homecoming, you know, a whole gamut of things.
Well,
I just want to say real quick, Natalie, so under 16, under the exemptions, any permitted activity that is approved by the chief of police, is going to be exempt. Real quick, and of course, there's procedures in here for the permit issuance, revocation of permits, and penalty, okay? So I just didn't know if other people might want to do their own fireworks show without permission from the city, and that could be a big deal. So that's something we need to discuss.
Well, along with what Alderman Miller was saying, one of the notes, looking at the Oxford ordinance, they specifically exempted city-approved things, chamber-approved things, county-approved things, and parades, I think. So, I mean, I would like to see that in ours, and then that would address the fireworks.
That should have to be a permitted event, a permitted event.
Yeah,
It should be under the exemption already.
Yeah, I'm happy to, I think that's good language to put in there. I just was being careful about maybe someone, just a rogue person, deciding to do a big fireworks show out of the blue, just anywhere, and so I wanted to not just blanket exempt it, unless, it's not my call, I'm just making suggestions.
That language you were saying.
Based on that language, it would have to be a board-approved event already, and then that would give it the exemption that it would need.
Board approved, board
It's in
supervisors.
Oxford.
It's the Oxford,
Yeah, okay, so the Oxford language on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
for chamber, county, and city.
Do you have it with you?
Yes, it's, what page is it on?
If you want to read it, I think that would be good.
I don't remember where it was.
I was really good on that.
I know, I read it today.
I have the ordinance here, let me see if I can find it.
Oh, here it is. It's number 789. They have Visit Oxford. I guess that's their chamber, something similar. And then number 3, under exclusions. It's on page 3.
Okay.
Does anybody have a differing opinion about that one?
I
About
concur
that.
with that. I think that's a good idea to put that in there.
Alderman Miller, did you have some others you wanted to address before someone else speaks?
No more, I would say that I would like to look at the decimal a little bit different than what's proposed, because as Mr. Pittman already stated, in the historical urban center, it's 85 to 95. And then residential is 65 up to 75. And to go on the lowest end, 65, that's not taking into account the other side. So it should be, a medium in there.
Yeah. Those
Instead
are,
of going to the lowest, somewhere in between, and so the between number, somewhere between, from 65 on up to the other number, in my opinion, instead of going to the extreme lowest number.
yeah. on that ordinance from Oxford, they're using two different readings there. So it's really, I'm just using one, I'm just using the DBA, the weighted DBA, okay?
Okay.
So, I wouldn't even make it more complicated to use the DBC reading, okay? They have a little bit more in-depth. There's two different ways to read those sound readings. So, but you're right.
But
It runs-
even at that is 85 and 65 different.
That's correct,
And you
sir.
used the 65.
That's
So
correct.
you didn't come to a medium between the urban and the residential.
Not with Oxford only. I used all of the four, really.
I'm
Yeah.
just looking at that.
No,
one. I
that's
thought it
correct.
was pretty-
With regard to Oxford, I believe that the medium there is 75 between those two different districts. DBA. Decibels, using the weighted scale with the DBA scale.
Those are the comments I had, man.
Any other board members have comments on the proposal?
I have another one about, is a number 11 exemption about school functions.
Yes.
Is that specific to events, or is, if the band is practicing,
Yeah, I
is
want-
that,
No, I'm sorry.
is that included as an exemption?
The band practices
I
a lot.
intended to include the band practicing, is that it? That's not an 11, what?
No, it just says school band, I think that's what you're referring to, right?
But does it have to be, I can't tell if it's specific to being an event, like a game.
No.
Okay.
Practices are covered with that,
Okay.
intended to be covered with that part of the ordinance.
Alderman Wicker.
Yeah, one thing I would suggest is the restriction of outdoor entertainment. It does not allow any outdoor entertainment on Sunday. From talking to Mr. Terry, I think they do have some entertainment on Sunday, and I'd be open to having that maybe 12 to 6 or something like that. Whatever, it's open for discussion, but I think just a strict prohibitive, I think we can
There was
listen to
another
that.
suggestion from one of the other board members that we use the weekday hours for that, which would be even up to 9 o'clock. So.
But just on Sunday,
yeah,
it
those
says
are-
nothing
those are
allowed on Sunday.
considerations,
We can do Sunday through Thursday and have a blanket till 9.
yeah.
And then Friday, Saturday, have your
Whatever y'all-
10:30, 11, whatever.
So the only consideration there, I would say, is just because I think we got kind of focused in on one specific area. So think citywide, on Sunday, we may want to wait till 12. If, let's say there's a future restaurant that is built near a church, we may want to consider that we don't have any live outdoor music till 12 or maybe even 1 o'clock to allow for services and things like that to be taking place. So
And I think that's a good suggestion, Alderman Piper, and I'm
I'd
just
say maybe
thinking
1 to
if, you know,
9.
If there's something that's not legal or something, I'll try to answer that, but I'm not I did propose this, but I compiled this based on accumulation of all four of those ordinances. And so, and the city is certainly authorized to, the language of the law in Mississippi and in most places, and I've sent this to all to you. I'm going to read it again for the record. A municipality may adopt a noise ordinance and prohibit noise in the municipality above a certain level pursuant to its powers to secure the general health and welfare of the community set forth in the code. So, your job is to figure out what's best for the community in your deliberations with regard to this ordinance.
And we need to look at not just focusing on downtown. I mean, we have
Correct.
construction going on early morning hours, people doing jackhammers and all kinds of equipment. And I've had complaints in my area because I'm close to the county and there's new subdivisions going up. So addressing the hours on the weekdays when they can start that and the hours on the weekends. I've had people call me and say, do we have a noise ordinance at all for all of the construction and the jackhammers and all the machinery going at 5 and 6 in the morning on some of these lots that are backing up to residential, homes.
Yeah.
So that's a part of this too. This is not just focused on downtown. This is focused on every single part of the city of Hernando. And that's with regards to loud, you read in all these ordinances, it's loud mufflers, it's loud pipes on trucks. It's everything is involved in these noise ordinances. It's not just music. It's other things.
No question about that. And we've got a long list here, as most cities do. You know, again, some cities allow outdoor entertainment, and some cities don't. Some cities, most cities were going to put a limit on it, okay? But I think I've sent you a fairly exhaustive ordinance that covers as much as I can think of and pull from different parts of the
Right.
other cities. Now, if
Very
there's something
detailed.
that's not in here or that needs to be changed, that's easy. The hard part was kind of, putting it all together in something that at least was a starting point for your deliberations in this as the board. But certainly, and you made a suggestion, Beth, that maybe, I've got 6 to 9 here on construction activities, maybe 6 o'clock is too early if they're going to work on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, maybe move that up, a little later in the morning.
Yeah,
I think
I've
that's
seen some to 7 on the weekends and 6 during the weekdays, and, I mean, there's ways to tweak that. It's not like this is,
Yeah, that's number
the
2.
holy
under
grail.
Number 2 under the exemption. So there are several time limits that are in here that can easily be, changed. All of them, all of these are starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, but it could be changed, depending on how you vote.
And I don't want to make an assumption here on specific unlawful noises. There's a list, but by no means is that an exclusive list. So there could be noises that are not included in this list that could be deemed unlawful.
Nuisance.
Yeah.
Excessive, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the Sunday. 2 of you have spoken about Sunday. The ordinance as proposed excludes live music on Sunday. Are there any more conversations or opinions on that? I'm trying to keep a list of things y'all are kind of wanting to amend on the proposed ordinance. I don't think we finished the Sunday discussion.
I think allowing 12 to 9 on Sunday. Everybody
Well,
okay with that?
I would prefer 1 to 9.
1 to
because
9,
a
okay.
lot of time church will carry over
Sure.
past 12, but that's just my personal opinion.
It's
1.
fine with me, 1 to 9 would be fine.
Not that we're voting on anything at this moment. I'm just trying to get a consensus on things. And of course, the public will be speaking shortly. I just wanted the public to be able to hear all of the ideas from the board first, so we'd have a good starting point. Any other questions or discussion at this moment?
I have a couple other questions. Are we going to require fees for these permits? I mean, that's not in here, but, I mean, it
Well,
definitely is
there's
clerical
al-
work.
There's already a permitting process for these events in Hernando. So I think it would follow whatever that already existing process is. I mean, when we have the Front Porch Jubilee, we have to apply for a street closure permit, and I make application here, but there's no fee for that. There hasn't been, as far as I know. And
Not at this time.
there's no fee for the permit. So it certainly could be added if you think it's appropriate. There may be, another thing to think about is that, there's going to be growth in Hernando. There could be other music sources, other noise sources. Like I said, Andrew Miller, the only reason I didn't exclude, and because Mr. Harris, Doc Harris, talked about the fireworks too, and everyone likes the fireworks. I just listed it this way because I didn't want just everyone doing fireworks without some oversight, and so that's the reason I've got that listed. But, if this becomes, this area where it is, if you have other venues having outdoor music, that's going to cause some other ripples, and this is trying to address all that at once. And of course, this board can make changes as it needs to going forward.
The other thing, when we get to the penalties at the end, and you've got your first offense, second offense, and third offense, let's say hypothetically there's a fourth or fifth or whatever, but does this go in, like, is it perpetual, like it just adds up over years at a time, or maybe each calendar year you wipe the slate clean and you start over?
There's no time limit on it. The requirement as part of the penalty is a verbal warning first from the police department. These fines are less than I saw in other ordinances. I think Oxford starts at $1,000. So I thought that was, to answer your question, there's no time limit on it. It could be a first this year and a second in 2 years. So, if you, in your wisdom, want to make some additions to that, I think that's a good observation. It might be something we want to think about.
I mean, if anybody else has thought about that.
Good question. It's as easy as me going in here and changing it on Word. So, I mean,
If y'all are at a good stopping point, it might be a good time to hear from the citizens, some opinions. As I said before, a lot of things were said at the last meeting. We remember those things. If there's some new items y'all would like to speak on, yes, sir, please come up. I knew you had called and said you wanted to speak, so come on. And for everybody that comes up, state your name and address for the clerk.
Terry Taylor, it's my wife Patty Taylor. We live at 1848 Grand Manor Drive. We own Uncle Bubba's Barbecue and Smokehouse in Hernando. I don't know that we can rebut all the things that's been told to you about us, making us sound like monsters, but in 3 minutes, but we've got some things we got to say.
Okay.
We've got some documentation we'd like to hand out.
We can pass it down if you want us to.
Oh, this is just, I only made one of these, but it's over 160 signatures we've gathered in the last 4 days. People want to keep live music on the patio.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I want to address some of the statements made in both of the meetings, August 3rd and September 14th. Start out with Austin Wilson. He stated that these buildings behind Uncle Bubba's and Uncle Bubba's were in construction at the same time. You'll see on the first picture, we opened June 19th. The first picture is dated July 30th. That's by our grandson.
That's screenshots of our phone.
Right, of my phone, and there was a dirt lot behind Uncle Bubba's where the houses are now located.
Second picture. Second picture is dated 2 days later, August 1st. You can see we had a live band on the patio then.
And we had a live band every week after that time until COVID hit. We did go inside when it got too cold before we had the tent sides put up, and then COVID hit, and then we were back out again on May 23rd, playing outside after the state told us that there could be dining back in the house, back inside the restaurant after COVID. The next, I want to address some statements made by Mr. Russ Barnes. He stated that we played indoors and COVID drove us outdoors. We started playing outdoors in August of 2019 while there was still a bare lot behind us. We started playing indoors in the winter of 2019 when the weather got too cold. And the next photo you'll see is May 23rd of 2020 when we were back on the patio again. And the previous photo was 6 days later on May 17th, 2020, showing the houses were still under construction.
Okay.
Mr. Barnes also said we had the same band playing 3 nights in a row. We played 6 to 7 hours a night. That is not correct. We had different bands every night. The most we ever played were 3 to 4 hours a night.
Starting at 7 or 8, we stopped at 11.
He stated that the business next door, the Social by Saint, is moving because of Uncle Bubba's. There's a document in there, an email from Hunter and Mary Catherine Logan saying they're not moving because of Uncle Bubba's, they're moving because of the opportunity to combine both of their locations into one building. And I might add that they're moving above our other restaurant, the Underground. They have no animosity towards us, and they're not happy that statement was given. Mr. Barnes states that, I believe he means Terry, thinks he's bulletproof. We're a family business employing over 40 people trying to make a living and keeping the doors open. When the tornadoes came back in 2020, we donated $2,000 worth of food for the first responders and over 4,000 to 5,000 tornado victims, as we felt it was our civic duty. We held benefits for the Hernando Animal Shelter, and that does include live music on Sundays. Donate a portion of our profits and have held benefits for many others. Next, Ms. Neal, I believe her name is Jenny Neal. She stated about the biker night. She has to listen to loud motorcycles and obscenities. These bikers are not gangs, and they're veterans from the American Legion and a Masonic group. They're in their 50s and 60s. I've never heard any obscenities from them. They're a very nice group. She stated the houses were built for young people. There's a copy of a report in the packet from the Board of Aldermen from February 2019 where Dale Wilson's requesting approval for an amendment to plan unit development. And in the report, which is highlighted, it says this upscale development will soon secure itself as a landmark of the high-end residences that appeal to the young professionals pouring into the heart of downtown Hernando. Ms. Neal has stated that we've retaliated, but we have not retaliated in any way. We don't condone any negative behavior from any of our employees. She has gone into restaurants and taken photos of our employees and customers and told one of the bands she was going to have them arrested, has attempted to have our general manager arrested multiple times. And something I skipped over here, Mr. Barnes stated when they had our general manager arrested that he was a teenage manager. We've never had a teenage manager.
He's 60 years
and
old.
he's over 60 years old. And it has been stated from several people they were concerned about the funeral home, and so we were concerned about it too. We didn't want anything to interfere with someone grieving their loved one. We've spoken to one of the funeral directors at the Hernando Funeral Home to ask if the music was too loud, and he asked what music. He said they can't hear the music from Uncle Bubba's inside the funeral
They
home.
play background music, and they said they've never heard it.
Never disturbed a service or visitation. I would like to address Mrs. Donovan. We were unaware about Mrs. Donovan having a problem with noise until we saw the video from the August 3rd meeting. We want to apologize to her for the disturbance and hope we can all come to an agreement on something that makes everyone happy. We opened our doors in 2019. We found a wonderful outdoor entertainment space, and we were able to play outside until the weather got bad, as I stated. COVID has hit restaurants worse than most businesses. If we're forced to play music, not at all, or indoors, as Ms. Neal and Mr. Barnes insist on, it would likely put us out of business. Business has been down for all restaurants in the past few months since COVID has increased, and outdoor music is helping to keep our doors open. As our restaurant employs over 40 people that want to work during this time, when so many don't, that would place them all on the unemployment line. We appreciate the opportunity of serving the residents of Hernando and surrounding areas. Uncle Bubba's won the Best Patio category in DeSoto County and DeSoto's Best contest this year. So many residents are enjoying our patio, including many of you that are sitting up here. Even with low sales because of COVID, we still paid over $150,000 in sales tax in 2020. Thanks for allowing us to speak and for considering our business when voting on the noise
And
ordinance.
basically putting us inside, we got a patio that seats 100. A restaurant don't seat that many inside. And then if we put a band in there, that takes up about 40 seats.
So
And then we've got an empty patio.
the ordinance as you proposed to us, it would not do away or make them move the music inside. It just puts some limits on the outside music. Is that correct?
And thank you.
TV levels, how far is that measured?
From the property line.
From the property line? Okay, what'd you say it was? I couldn't hear you.
I recommended 65 based on.
Normal voice, normal conversation we're having now is about 60.
You know, it might be good to have, I'm no decibel expert. I don't think anybody really here is, but, so I can't say for sure. I'm not sure you can, Terry, but.
I was in the electronic business for 39 years.
I don't doubt that. I just know what I've compared what other cities do.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation. It's not meant to harm anybody or your business at all. I go to your establishment on a regular basis.
And I want to speak on behalf of the board. Obviously, something's come to a head and it's been centered around this.
Yeah.
But the ordinance the board is considering isn't in retaliation or isn't just aimed at one business.
Yeah.
It's something they're considering for the entire city.
Well, I know, but I
Yeah.
just watched
Sure.
the residents of Ivy come up here and just
I understand,
totally the
yeah.
stores make us sound like monsters, and we're a family business trying to make a living.
And the board's going to make a decision that'll probably be fair to everybody from what I can tell.
And that's what we would like.
Yep.
Okay. And I would
We certainly-
definitely.
Thank y'all.
Like I say, the police have been called so many times that I guess they've decided, well, it's just no good, there's nothing we can do, and they're not breaking any laws, which we haven't broken any laws. So, I guess that's why we never knew about, Ms. Donovan.
Okay.
Because, she was here first, so I would definitely, not want to infringe on her benefits in any way, infringe on her rights,
Thank y'all for speaking.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Who else would like to speak briefly?
Can I have a point of clarification really quick? That I just want to make sure we've got, I'm not disputing what our city attorney says. I just want to read exactly where the measurement comes from. As measured at the adjacent public street or curb, but at least 5 feet from the building facade. That's the wording that's put in there. So so it wouldn't necessarily be from your exact property line. It would be from an adjacent public.
It's going to be
street.
close.
Yeah, yeah.
Adjacent public streets 2 feet off.
Yes, sir.
So is the property line. It's probably,
Yeah.
property line's probably a little closer, so.
I was just going to read it for
clarification.
posterity or
You gotta,
clarity.
you gotta,
or
you gotta go
whatever you wanna
somewhere.
say.
You know,
Yes,
you gotta
sir.
start from somewhere, and so,
Alderman Miller,
So we
did you have a
start-
comment?
No, I just,
Okay.
I just listened to what they were saying. That's when we said earlier, we're not looking, we're gonna find a million between the 65 and 85. I'm thinking that, 65 is on the lower side, but somewhere between 65 and 85, I think the board should come to, a resolution.
Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir, please.
My name's Tom Bradley. I live in Winningham subdivision, I also own a business on Commerce Street, so I guess I'm a dual citizen with a huge mortgage on one of them. I'm a patron of Uncle Bubba's, I'm not gonna deny that, but I'm also a small business person. And I understand what he's gone through in COVID. And I think that some of the regulations are not fair if you're going to exclude everything the city does, and that's okay as loud as you want to make it. That's not fair for the business people that provide the income for the city to do these events. And that's my opinion. And the other thing that I've got a suggestion on, if you're going to put a decimal reading, why put it on the street? If someone makes a complaint, do the decimal reading at their house. And if it's too loud, then they have a legitimate complaint. If you do it on the street, like Terry says, I talk loud, so I'm 75, decimal reading right now. That's not, any music's gonna be louder than that. You can get a string quartet and get louder than that. So if someone has a complaint, the police respond to that home and take a decimal reading inside their home. If it's not at 65 inside their home, it's not legitimately breaking the law. So I would think that would be a much better, if you're going to exclude everything that the city does, because the same bands that play for the chamber or the fair leave and go play at Bubba's. So if it's too loud at Bubba's, it's too loud for the city. And my wife and I lived in Olive Branch on the home field baseball line. That wasn't so bad. But the Hernando High School walking band or marching band, that is very loud. But you're excluding that. So if you know it's loud, why are you excluding that if it's a city function? It's not fair. You got to do the same, in my opinion. You need to make the rules fair for everyone. The city, the government, and the individual businesses that have risked everything to be in business. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else?
So based on his comment.
Would you come up? You kind of have to.
I'm Beth Rafferty, and I live at 360 West Valley. My house is the first residence in the back of Uncle Bubba's. But just based on his comment, if they're being allowed to play 7 days a week, right, because the ordinance allows that. So are we calling to have a decibel reading come to our house 7 days a week to measure that? I mean, is the burden back on the residents in the neighborhood? And that's just my question.
Okay.
When we go to Uncle Bubba's and we don't have any issues, I'm just saying, is that back on us then?
That's a good point.
Have the police come to our house to do the reading?
Okay, thank you.
Question.
How would that be policed? Chief, I might ask you how you think you would police that.
We can police to a complaint.
It would have to be a complaint?
That'd be a
Okay.
complaint.
And so if the decibel reading were moved to the point of complaint, as has been suggested might be an option, then you would have to go to her home to read it. Otherwise, if you got a complaint, you would just go to the business to take the reading.
Complaining to get the information, and then we would have to relocate to wherever the origin of the call is.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jacqueline Dutch. I am at 2407 East Street. And I think that, you know, regardless of what decision you make, I think it's important to consider that, you know, when you're looking at decibel readings, if you're saying 65 at the property line, that's a very different noise level than when you go to someone's home. So if you say, okay, we want to set the decibel reading at someone's home, then it probably should be more of an ambient noise level rather than a 65, 85 decibel reading level. So please do take that under consideration as you're considering that. Because I know currently, like, I have to keep my windows closed to sleep and I can hear the words of the songs.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments from the board? I'm going to just read back what I think I've heard from the board. The first thing, and I'm going off of the proposed ordinance that Stephen put in front of us. The first one would add the wording from the Oxford ordinance about the parades and fireworks that Alderwoman Lynch was talking about. There was a question about clarifying if school band practice is allowed, and I think our attorney said in his reading of it, it is allowed in there.
That's the way it was written, to include that.
Yep.
Thought about that when I was writing it, so.
And there seemed to be a kind of a consensus that outdoor music on Sunday would be okay from 1 to 9. And then I think, I don't know if there is a question, there were some citizens who talked about where to read the decibel readings from. But those are the notes that I had made. If y'all want to have any more discussion or a motion?
I think the most important thing we need to come to on a consensus is decibel level. I think that's probably the most important thing we're going to talk about. So other board members, what do you, I think Andrew's probably at 75, it sounds like. What is everybody else at?
Let me share this, and I've been kind of quiet, but I sat down in Steve's office and fed him everything that I thought, and he's captured that in his document. But one of the things that we discussed that I looked at is OSHA requirements. And as I read it, OSHA has a 85 decibel level as a cutoff. If you listen to a noise level of 85 decibels for 8 hours, you will then start experiencing hearing damage. The music is not 8 hours in duration. If you bump it to 95 decibels, it goes from 8 hours to 4 hours. So what I talked with Steve about was a happy medium of maybe somewhere around 70. That's well below the OSHA minimum. It is a little bit higher than what he's recommending, but I think it still remains fair to everyone. The difference between a 70 and a 65 is, I don't think, going to make a difference one way or the other. I'm concerned that there may not even be a difference between 65 and 85. The folks that are living over there that hear the music, I don't know that any decibel level is going to please you. I think you'll still hear the music. But I'm not in favor of...
Do you want me to reply to that?
I think you've already done that very well twice, so... Ma'am?
The question you just asked, you said you don't think it's going to make any difference, or it's going to please anybody.
Between the two decibel levels, I don't know that there's going to be that much of a recognizable difference between a 70 and an 85 or a 65 and a 70. I'm not an expert, and and I'm probably wrong, that's just my opinion. So if we're looking for a happy medium on a decibel level, my comments to Steve was 70, to answer your question, Alderman Wood.
Well, currently, there's nothing,
Right.
yeah, so if we got something, I think that's a good start. We can always come
That's a good
back and
point.
raise it, or
And-
lower it,
and-
or whatever.
And some of the readings that y'all have recorded are up around 100?
And in my bedroom. So the decibel reading, the recording I played you was inside my bedroom.
So you would probably recognize a difference if it were set at 65 or 70, and I hope you do.
So what you were saying about OSHA is if it plays over, and I have many, many, many decibel readings, 95, over 100. The bands play from 8 to 11, 4 nights a week.
Well, the difference, though, is in that OSHA that they were talking about, at that point, you would start experiencing hearing loss. You're experiencing disruption and annoyance and not hearing loss. But still, the difference between 100 decibels and 65 decibels, I hope
Ma'am,
will make a difference.
would you like to come up to the podium? We're not going to speak from our chairs anymore this evening. We'll just take turns and come to the podium.
Let me tell you, what I've experienced is worse than hearing loss. When they start that music over there, this is the way I go. Because I have to go to my back bedroom every time they play that music. Close all of my doors off and lock myself in my back bedroom, put earplugs in, and I've got pillows between my inside shutters and my outside window. And I can't hear my TV, I'm just watching it. And this is what I get. I'm telling you, she probably has PTSD, and I probably do too, from that music. And I'm telling you, it's more than 85.
I think you misunderstood my intent when I said that, ma'am. I was in no way saying that you weren't experiencing problems. As a matter of fact, I just said, you're not experiencing hearing loss, you're annoyed, you're disruption.
No, I'm not annoyed. I'm experiencing mental problems from that music. Do you-
What decibel level would you like to have?
What Steve said, 65.
Okay, that's fair enough.
65 sounds reasonable to me. We have never said, don't play the music. We have begged him, please turn it down.
Yes, ma'am.
I've made 7 phone calls over there to him. I've talked to people that work for him. We've done everything. We've begged him to turn it down.
You've
And
made that very clear to us. You really
That's
have
right.
on 2 occasions, and that's why we're here tonight talking
Well,
about it.
I'm not being rude and ugly, but I'm just telling
And
you.
I'm not either.
That
Miss
people,
Gracie, Miss
people in the war zones, I can understand now where they get PTSD, because I really feel like when that music starts, it's like I have to prepare my house and my home for the music that's going to play 4 or 5 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a night. And sometimes the music goes to 11:30 or 12.
And I think that's what this ordinance is going to solve. Right. Any other board members?
I
Have
guess
a-
what's been kicked up 70 and 75, I mean, just,
What is, I mean,
is it, 75 is a median between the 65 and 85.
That's gonna be a difference.
are we talking about the adjacent street or the residence? I think we gotta keep it at the street, adjacent street right now.
As written in the
It's
proposed
got to be the
ordinance.
street.
So is everybody good with 75 starting out? And
And I do want to tell everyone that this is a first go for Hernando at this. After it's in place for a while, if the police chief sees a problem, if citizens see a serious problem, the board can always come back and amend it and make it
Or the
better.
business see a problem.
Or the business, yeah, anybody, if anybody sees a problem, yeah. So we can always come back to it at a later date. This is just our first shot at it, and we think we're doing a pretty good job at it because we've listened to lots of you, business owners and citizens. The attorney has reviewed lots of data and given us a proposal, so I think this will be a pretty educated motion to come out of this board, and then we can look and see how it works.
I just had one comment out.
Oh, is there another comment? Yes, sir.
Austin Wilson, 3242 West Heartland Drive. My granddad and I are the developers at Ivy and the landowners. just want to say two things. First of all, I want to apologize for any misspeaking that I may have done, referenced by Ms. Taylor. The reason I said that we were under construction at the same time, I just looked at my timestamps too. We started pouring curb on July the 31st. So as far as who was there first, they were absolutely there first. But whenever I said we were under construction at the same time, there was days where I was on site at Ivy that I went into Uncle Bubba's. I actually met a trim carpenter inside Uncle Bubba's. So as far as the actual houses being constructed, they were under construction. They were there first. I'm not sure that justifies what's going on at all. And then second of all, just to touch on the decibel level, I've done a bunch of research on it, and like Mr. Pittman said, I'm definitely no expert either. Mr. Ben, Alderman Ben, may be the biggest expert with his wife being an audiologist, but
No, sir.
as I understand it, every 3 units that a decibel level, every 3-unit increment, the sound intensity doubles. That's the way I understand it. So I definitely think that there is a huge difference in between 65 and 85 and even 75 and 65. So I would plead with you guys to take into consideration Mr. Pittman's recommendation, and hopefully we can make an ordinance that helps everyone.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Wilson. Okay.
He said he's going to get
Does someone want to propose a motion?
I do just have a clarification. So obviously, there's 5 new people here, so how does an ordinance work? So we approve an ordinance, and then what takes place
Some of
after
the
that?
effective date of ordinance.
Yeah, the effective date is 30
30
days
days.
after. It has to be advertised and give you 30 days to become law.
30 days.
Can we not maybe hear the difference and then vote on it and see what fits better? Or are we having to vote on it right now?
Y'all don't have to do
The board
anything.
can do anything we want to do.
Because, I mean, what if 75's fine? What if it needs to be 65? I mean, or what if 85's fine? I'm just saying.
In the ordinance, just like we pass ordinance, you can change the ordinance. And it become effective 30 days from the change. I mean,
We have Mr. McAlexander would like to speak.
Yeah, Preston McAlexander, 564 West Commerce. I own the building, not the business. I just wanted to say, I think a lot of us, myself included, we do not understand what these decibel levels mean. It is entirely too loud, but take into consideration that 70 decibels is 75 is about the average of a vacuum cleaner. 80 to 89 is the range of a power lawnmower. With as much as contentious as this issue is, I'm afraid that you're going to have people complaining about their neighbor mowing their grass if you put a decibel level that's too low. It is absolutely too loud, as it has been, absolutely. But I think y'all need to do a little bit of research on what these decibel levels are before you make a decision. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions from the board? Or a motion?
Question as far as the penalty, so if someone goes over the decimal or the time, is it the business owner, band members, or all that gets penalized? I would like to see it be all.
It's, as it's worded now, it's the property.
Property owner.
Property.
Yeah, exactly.
Property owner or business owner?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I worded it as the property owner, but the property owner has a duty to control his property. Now, they may have a lease agreement or something that states otherwise, but you can certainly add to it. That's a good question.
Yeah, could we, I'd say let's do property owner, business owner, and all members of the band.
That's a little broad.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I think that's a
I mean,
little
that
overkill.
keep everybody in check.
That's reaching there, man. I mean, you know.
That is true, but-
I mean, that's kind of reaching there. I can see the business owner instead of the property owner.
Yeah.
Because it's the business owner that's running the business. But when, you know, we talking about overstretching for government, that's overstretching. In my opinion now, I mean, you know,
Right.
I'm for rules, doesn't mean I want a million between the decimal level, but I just cannot agree to band members and property owner, I mean, if in our ordinance with grass and stuff like that, we go to that person that owns it.
Yeah, the language that's used is any person, firm, or corporation. So I think it's a good idea to define what you want to do, you know.
I think it should be the business owner, I mean, you know, I can't,
Yeah, whoever's
We kinda-
controlling the day-to-day
yeah,
operations.
that's kind of,
Because some business owners, property owners do not even live in the area. They just own the building and it's leased to a tenant. So that I wouldn't hold them liable. But I still think we need more research on this decibel level measuring and what is the sound of a 65, a 75, and an 85.
I think we're just following the other cities have done, so I mean.
We can follow what the other cities have done, but two cities in our county don't allow any outdoor music, so we don't want to, I'm not for that.
I do want to encourage the board to put something in place soon, because there are potential lawsuits involved with allowing these to continue going on. So I'm encouraging this board to make make a decision soon.
lawsuits will be between the residents and the business, and not the city. Because the aggrieved person, I have to file, so, no, don't make it seem as though this board is gonna be sued.
I didn't say
That
the
action,
board.
well, you said because of lawsuit, let's clarify and make it plain.
Yeah.
It's not the board that'll be sued. Somebody have to take action against one another, the aggrieved party, not the board.
And I want to say this, I made an
Civil.
observation of what Mr. Taylor said earlier. He apologized to Ms. Donovan, and I think that was a big person to do that. That's what we need in this city. We need good neighbors, and this board needs to put something in place to make that happen. Because what you're doing is, not you're doing, what has been allowed to happen, that because we didn't have an ordinance, and ordinances like this are tough, neighbors are hating each other because they're competing interests, and so that's not good government. And so that's part of why I'm encouraging. I don't want any litigation between anybody over this issue.
I do want to speak to, I know we discussed from the home of the complaint or the street. So one of the challenges, I think, with going to the home of the complainant is you are dealing with, street traffic between the home and where that business would be. So you may have some issues there collecting a good sample, or that could be something that could be, litigated out potentially. I can't imagine, an attorney wouldn't do that, because I'm not one, and I just thought of that sitting here. So you would think they would be able to come up with that. So I think that's why that is potentially there. I do think we're in a little bit of a unique situation, because we do have Highway 51 in close proximity, highly trafficked road. You're going to have, I know somebody mentioned ambient noise. You're going to have ambient noise from Highway 51 that could potentially, elevate decibel levels. So I think it will be challenging in some ways to have a good noise collection from our police department at times if it's if you have a lot of busy traffic going by. I think it'll be a challenge in that way. So I just want to say that, because that is something we have to consider. How do you weigh all that? The sound is not in like a vacuum where we can say that 85 decibels is coming from one sound source. We're talking about a patio with music. It's or what many other potential that could come from this. I mean, we're talking about this one situation, but when we have future developments that come from this, it's really difficult to weigh. It's difficult to weigh all those things, I think. And
I have a question for Mr. Taylor. What would you like the DB level to be?
Depends on where it's measured from. I don't know, 75, our problem is our band is right in the corner, right on the back of the property line. It's where we're set up, the play that's how we're set up. The 75 feet from Highway 51, the property line on that side, by 75 dB, I don't think it'd be a problem at all.
The preferred DB level is 65. That's what's been requested, and that's what Steve's recommended. How do you feel about a 65 dB level for your business?
General conversation is 65, and music would be lower than the normal conversation around the music.
Are any of your speakers pointed to the west?
No.
They're all pointed away from the neighborhood?
Pointing back in front of the microphones, and all you do is get feedback. The speakers are out front and away from the microphones. They're further from the west than the band is, and they point.
Okay, any other discussion from the board? If there's no more discussion, is there a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve the ordinance with a couple of changes. The first change would be add Oxford language on parades and fireworks and so forth. Allow for outside music on Sundays from 1 to 9. Increase the decimal level to 75. And including in the penalty business owners. That'd be my motion.
And you say include or exclude?
Include business owners.
Only.
Is that business owners only or business
Yes,
and
yes.
property? Business owners
How are we
only.
going to know what 75 dB is?
You're gonna have to purchase the.
Yeah, we'll have to purchase equipment for our police officers.
Okay.
And we have the opportunity to have the same equipment so we can.
Yeah.
see
Absolutely.
if
Certainly.
the decibel meter is the
Yeah, they can be
same.
purchased by anybody.
Yeah, I
So-
think that the part of the penalty requires a warning, so I think there would certainly be a trial and error there with the police
Yeah.
chief, and there should be some understanding that everyone needs time to.
We want to work with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So we have a motion on the table. Is there a second to Alderman Wicker's motion?
Second.
It's a second from Alderman Robinson. Madam Clerk, we'll have a roll call vote.
Alderman Harris.
No.
Alderwoman Lynch.
Aye.
Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Robinson.
Aye.
Alderman Wicker.
Aye.
Alderwoman Ross.
Aye.
Alderman Piper.
aye.
And that motion passes.
So that would go effect 30 days from today, or,
It has to be put in the paper.
okay.
I will make the changes as suggested.
Okay.
I want to send it back to all of you to make sure I've got it right.
Okay.
Can we post that on the city website at some point when it's ready? So-
As soon as he gets it, we'll get it posted on the website. Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. This meeting is adjourned. Thank all of you for your participation.